Guys, welcome back to A Cow's Opinion, where I go over the latest and greatest, and sometimes thought-provoking news that's happening in the world of video games. So if you like that, like, comment, and subscribe down below, because today we are looking at Nintendo talking about how great of a relationship they have with Microsoft. They're best buddies! And it is so nice that Activision Blizzard is not in the news for something terrible. Let's wait 3 days and see if it still happens, but it's nice. So, Doug Bowser, who is the president of Nintendo of America, has commented on the relationship that they have with Microsoft after some leaked emails. Now, as we all know, in order to buy Activision Blizzard, Microsoft had an almost 2-year saga before they finally managed to do it. Due to the FTC and Lena Khan, as I'm checking my cell phone, challenging them in court. A ton of legal documents were accidentally published as a result of all of this. Now, it was Microsoft's fault that this stuff happened, but some of the stuff was very interesting. One of the biggest things was Xbox bosses Phil Spencer's desire to acquire Nintendo. That's right, the House of Mario is going to be on your Xbox platform, except no, not really. In fact, the quote is, "I totally agree that Nintendo is the prime asset for us in gaming," as said in an email exchange back in 2020, when the Microsoft board was fully supportive of the opportunity for such an acquisition. Now, it's come up a lot since then, and we'll get to all the reasons why it's probably never going to happen in a second. But Nintendo's newest president, Doug Bowser, got asked about this leak during an Inverse interview on Friday, and he had some pretty interesting, good answers. "We have a great relationship with Microsoft," he said. "We consider them to be partners in many, many ways, and you only have to look at Nintendo Switch to see that partnership. Obviously, Minecraft is on Nintendo Switch, and we brought Banjo-Kazooie to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. They also brought Steve for Minecraft as well. So we're looking forward to that partnership continuing." Now, it also has been pointed out that Microsoft signed those 10-year legal agreements to bring Call of Duty to multiple platforms, including Nintendo, when it completed the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Spencer's also continued in his leaked email, "At some point, getting Nintendo would be a career moment." He is not wrong about that. "And I honestly believe a good move for both companies. Debatable, but possible. It's just taking a long time for Nintendo to see that their future exists off of their own hardware. A long time." Now, addressing the coverage of the leaked materials, which includes plans for unannounced console hardware, that's not really so much of a leak. It doesn't surprise me that Microsoft is thinking about their next hardware and working on it, because I guarantee you Sony, Nintendo, and probably some other company that wants to get into console gaming are also in development. But Spencer claimed last month that so much had changed since those documents were created. "We've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It is hard for our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready." So what is the cow's opinion on this? First of all, it does not surprise me. Nintendo has the best first-party games and mascots and universes overall. You can argue that, say, Master Chief is better, and you are allowed that opinion. You can argue that Tomb Raider or Uncharted are better, and you allow that opinion. But when you take Mario and the Luigi Mansion games, and Kirby, and Metroid, and F-Zero, and Mario Kart, and it goes on, and on, and on, and on. When you take all of it, no one matches the sheer wealth of first-party innovations that Nintendo does. If Nintendo were to be acquired by Microsoft or Sony or anybody, it would be a crown jewel in the corporate headpiece. It would be amazing. So, am I surprised that Xbox has thought about buying Nintendo over here, combining these two little walls? Of course not. Dude, when this is what some people do, it's just like, hey, just for the hell of it, what if we bought the House of Mario? What if Mario was jumping on Goombas on Xbox? It's not a bad thought. There's nothing wrong with thinking aloud. It's like, what if I won $10 million? There's no, people have dream sessions like that all the time where they, talk about stuff and plan stuff. Here's the thing. First of all, based on these rumors, Nintendo politely declined any interest in Xbox acquiring them. And since they're Japanese, they're very polite. It's probably the only reason why they won't laughing their butts off. Because Xbox has tried in the past to convince Nintendo you should stop making hardware and just focus on the software and put your stuff on our consoles. It is a opinion that a lot of people in the gaming industry, like console makers, game developers, news reporters, market watchers, investors, lots of people have had this opinion because Nintendo consoles are usually the least powerful of the consoles that you can get. And people have always said, man, Mario on the newest Xbox or PlayStation would be mind-blowing. And yeah, it would be. It would be amazing. But Nintendo doesn't want to do that. First of all, unlike most other console makers, Nintendo doesn't sell their hardware at a loss. Nintendo has always either broken even or made a small profit off of their consoles. So that way they're not losing tons of money up front and then having to sell tons of software after it, which means you get a lot less garbage Nintendo first-party games because they don't have to be shoved out. Which brings us to the next part. Nintendo is very, very, very protective of their IP. They understand exactly what people want, and they are willing to spend the time and resources to give you the best Zelda, the best Metroid, the best Mario, the best anything. And if they became a software publisher, well, that would be really, really difficult because Xbox and PlayStation or both would be pressuring, hey, when's your next game coming out? We really want more games. And Nintendo would be like, guys, we're not ready yet. It's going to be another 6 months before the next first-party title is done. You're just going to have to be patient. Nintendo hardware is also somewhat easier to develop, not just because it's less powerful, but because they develop for their own hardware so much in-house. They don't make overly complicated architectural messes. That one's a little less of a point, but it's still a valid point. But the biggest reason why this will never happen is Nintendo is a Japanese company. The Japanese government is very, very cautious about ever letting any of their homegrown stuff be sold to a foreign company, even to an American company as big as Microsoft, with the two countries being on friendly relations. Now, you could argue that Nintendo and Sony are a bit easier, but given how Japanese corporations work, it's probably unlikely. I don't think so. The Japanese government's probably also a little wary right now because, remember, during the trial of Xbox and the FTC, Sony got called out on saying that Microsoft would be able to, pay for first releases, staggered releases, and keep them out of the market. But it was correctly pointed out to Sony that that's what you do in the smaller Japanese market. Xbox has never been able to get a firm foothold or attempt to do so in the Japanese market for the simple fact of the matter that they can't get RPGs. They can't. Anytime Microsoft tries, they've paid for years worth of entire studios games to come out on their consoles, but they just can't get in because Sony will pay Square Enix and Konami and all the other big ones. Hey, you're not putting it out. You're not putting anything out on Microsoft that you're not putting out on us, or you're giving us exclusives. So this came up, and the Japanese government said, well, we don't really have a mechanism to look out for this kind of thing. So they're probably not wanting to let Nintendo merge, first of all, because Nintendo's pretty big. And they're probably not willing to sell it to Xbox because Xbox is a foreign company. And they're probably not willing to allow it to sell to Sony because they know that what it will look like, it'll look like they're trying to drive American groups out of the Japanese market. And also, I wouldn't trust Sony with Nintendo. I'm just saying. But the biggest reason why this is never, it's cool as a thought experiment or some business class or some YouTuber to list the pros and cons. But guys, Nintendo's got a lot of money. Nintendo's got a lot of wealth. Nintendo's is rumored to be later this fall going to show you the successor to the Switch, a very popular, wonderful console that other people have been trying to mimic, including the Sony Portal thingy and the much better game deck from Steam. So, look, I don't think Microsoft's going to be able to offer Nintendo enough money. They can easily afford Nintendo, don't get me wrong. But Nintendo just doesn't want to sell. Nintendo wants to make their games to their audience, and they do it very well, and they execute flawlessly almost every single time. The reason why Microsoft was able to buy Activision Blizzard was both the pandemic and the massive amount of negative press, abuse, scandals, and some terrible games as they kept trying to push quality down and more games out. All of that combined to drive down Activision Blizzard's stock price to where Microsoft made a good offer. It was in the 50s. Microsoft offered the $95 a share, and Bobby Kotick was a little surprised when his board said, no, we want to take this and get out. Because all of the lawsuits and everything, it was like, we just want to pull the ripcord. We just want to get the hell out of here now. And it doesn't shock me that happened. Nintendo, much stronger company. It's not going to happen. But hey, this is an opinion show. What's your opinion, guys and girls? I have a surprising number of girl viewers now. It's much smaller than the guys, but, hello, welcome, say what you want, because that's what the internet is for. Do you think Nintendo should remain separate? And if they were to be sold, would you like them to be bought by Xbox or Sony or some other company? Or hey, maybe you want Nintendo to be independent, but you're like, I just don't want to buy that many consoles to play all the great games. Why can't Nintendo just stop making consoles? And why can't they be releasing Mario on PlayStation and Xbox? What do you want to see? You can tell me in the comments below. And you know what else you can always do? Yeah, you know what you can always do. You can play more games! Because games are awesome and you deserve awesome. That is your Monday, and I'll see you next time.